Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Lewis. I'm an Associate Director at First Point USA. We're here tonight with Silviu Tanasoiu from Cornell University, the well-known Ivy League. Silviu, welcome and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Just to let everyone know, we are recording tonight, so you can pick up the recording in the next 24 hours. We would look forward to you asking some questions, so feel free just to use the chat box to do so, and we'll ask a few of those later this evening. So Silviu is the Director of Tennis at Cornell University. He's spent 13 years there. He's led the team to an Ivy League title and 3 separate appearances at the NCAA Championship Tournament. They've surpassed the first round on each of those occasions. In the last 7 years, Cornell are the only Ivy League to have had 5 players in the top 600 in the ATP rankings. And additionally, they're the only Ivy League to host their own pro tournament. And in fact, they've hosted 7 of these in the last 3 years. So welcome, Silviu. Thank you for your time. First off, I just wanted to ask you more about your own background prior to Cornell. Tell us something about your own tennis career and so on.
Sure. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for having me. I very much appreciate it. I'm originally from Romania. I actually came to United States to play college tennis myself. And I was recruited at the University of Oklahoma a long time ago, and where I had the chance to represent the Sooners for 4 years of my life. I've studied psychology there as an undergraduate, and soon after my graduation, I was given the opportunity to be the assistant coach at Oklahoma. And after 3 years with Paul Lockwood as a head coach, I had the chance to be the assistant coach for John Roddick, for Andy Roddick's brother, for 2 years. Person that taught me so much about the tennis at the highest level and what it means to be a true professional. And after 2 years alongside John, I was given the chance to become the head coach at Cornell, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. Okay. And for those that might not know, can you tell us more about the Ivy League and what the Ivy League represents and what the values of the Ivy League are?
Sure. Well, the Ivy League is a combination of 8 of the best academic institutions in the world. There's a long tradition. It has the longest history, I think, the Ivy League out of all the conferences in the United States. So there's a very, very long tradition with sports in the conference. And it's the only league nationally that only provides financial aid need-based, as opposed to the other schools that provide athletic scholarship through their teams. And it's by far, I think, the strongest academic conference in the entire country.
Okay, thank you. And you've been the most successful coach in Cornell's history. What would you say you've focused on to achieve that? Has it been, the recruiting or the culture? Is it the tournaments that you run?
Well, it's certainly a combination of all of them. The most important thing that I value in regards to the program is the quality of the people that we have in the program, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's the players that we have in the team, the alumni that we're bringing on board to advise us and to support the team. So I think it takes a tremendous amount of effort and of human capital to be able to run a program like ours. And our number one concern or focus has been to bring on board the best quality people that we can on all fronts. And that's something that I've been trying to do, and I continue to do as a head coach here to this day.
Okay. And you mentioned that the Ivy Leagues are, they have financial aid available, and that's a little bit different than other Division I universities where they might be giving academic or athletic scholarship. Do you feel that that's of help to you in terms of opening the door wider globally?
To a certain degree, it is. From some standpoint, it's a limiting thing for us because it only provides that support for families in need. So there's a financial aid process that all of our players go through. in order to determine if they qualify or not, based on the family's incomes, their assets, investments, and everything. And there's a process that determines, like I said, if they qualify. And it has to be a certain type of family that qualifies for that type of aid. We've been successful with maybe the overseas, with the international players to be able to qualify that, because they do look at American standards of living when they do the estimates. And so that's been a fortunate situation for us. It's been a little more challenging within the United States, as far as the support that we can provide to many of the players that we're bringing on board.
Okay. And what makes a good recruit for Cornell? Is it the tournaments that they play? Is it, purely academics? Can you talk to us more about what a well-rounded recruit would look like?
Sure. It's a very, very special person. I think, being part of one of the top institutions in the world while also pursuing tennis at the absolute highest level, it's not something that it's very common. And so we're looking at an entire package from a human standpoint. Obviously, you have to be at a certain level of play. And so it has to be a certain type of athlete and the ability to develop and improve. It has to be someone that it's very passionate about tennis and it's willing consequently to invest a lot of time on the court and off the court in regards to taking care of the body, through rest, fitness, and training. And it takes someone special that has a deep appreciation for academics, and having been at the University of Oklahoma, I can tell you it's quite different as far as the academic demands that we have on our players than I'll say most institutions in the country. It takes someone that has, like I said, a deep appreciation for academics and a strong passion for the tennis in order to be a strong candidate for our program. There are several other things that we're looking for. We're very interested in the type of person that we're dealing with and the character, the values that the player has in the family, how they've been raised, and what are some of the strong things that the family has emphasized in the raising of the player. And so all of these, combined make for a very strong candidate for our program. And we're very much aware that even though we're recruiting worldwide, I think the pool of candidates that we're very, strongly interested in, it's quite small, because I think very few players have the passion to play these events, to train at the highest possible level, while also undergoing a very rigorous academic program. And so that's something that we're looking for.
Okay. And you spoke there about the rigor of the training program as well. I mean, what can a Cornell tennis player or any athlete expect in terms of their training load through the week, and how many hours might be dedicated towards a sports program versus the academics?
Sure. Well, I can give you a typical day in the life of a player. I think that can be useful. Generally, the players do fitness as a team from 7:30 to about 8:30. Then a.m. and then they have 3 classes on average per day. So from maybe, let's say, 9 to 12, they would go to class. From 12 to 1, they would have lunch. From 1 to 2, they'll rest. From 2 to 3, they'll study for an hour. And then from 3 to about 6 o'clock, they'll train. They'll do the afternoon training practice. They'll have 30 minutes after that for recovery. They'll have dinner, and then they'll study for 2 more hours. And after that, maybe one more hour for themselves, just for like free time. And after that, they go to bed. So it's usually a typical day has anywhere between 9 to 10 hours between tennis and academics, on a daily basis. And I think what makes it challenging as far as being a student athlete at an Ivy League is the volume of work and the consistency of that work, because you have that type of day 5 times a week. So it's not just It's not one day per week. When that happens, it's 5 times throughout the week, and many times, you'll travel during the weekends. You'll also have to bring your books with you or your computer. So there's homework you might have to do, or studies that you might have to go through, and then compete at the same time. And I was mentioning to Ross earlier, yesterday we had the Ivy League championships, the individual championships, and we had 2 of our guys that played the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and both of them played almost 6 hours yesterday. They had 2 singles matches, and after that we had to drive back home, and then got back about 1 a.m. and now they're back in school. Today they were back in school. They had class at 9 a.m. So it's a very rigorous schedule that players have to go through. But I can also tell you, a bit later also about I think the rewards of being part of an Ivy League institution as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they're surrounded by some of the best academics in the world as well, the academic applicants that are joining them in classes as well. In terms of your own recruiting process, how far in advance might you start to recruit? So are you thinking now about the class of 25, or have you already moved on to those for coming in 26? What's the typical timeline to begin recruiting?
Yeah, interestingly enough, we're almost done with the 2026 recruiting class at the moment. So generally, we start looking. We are allowed to communicate with players once they finish their second year of high school. So they're about to start their third year of high school. That's when we're allowed. June 15 of their junior year in high school is when we are allowed to communicate with them, and our first opportunity to get to know them. We tend to pay attention to them. Maybe starting their sophomore year in high school, and start to pay attention to trends as far as their the type of tournaments they're playing, how many tournaments they're playing, where are those tournaments being played, how many matches they're playing throughout the year, and also the growth. We do pay attention to UTR. It's a good reflection of someone's level. So it's something that we want to see, the type of trends that the players have, and all those combined give us the starting point in the conversation. And then I think once we start communicating with the players, we start realizing if they can be a great fit for our institution, or we can be a great fit for their dreams.
Yeah. And in terms of, we've got a lot of UK audience listening tonight. So in terms of that 15th of June mark, that would be in the GCSE year. So if someone was in the UK, that would be 15th of June, just at the end of their GCSEs. So more than 2 years in advance from their entry to university. What about that SAT? So the SAT, it seems to be coming back strong for many universities. Where do Cornell stand on that? And what are the general requirements on the SAT looking ahead for future years?
Yeah, for a while there, for about 4 years, we didn't have to worry about that, but they've reintroduced that for the 2026 recruiting class. So we're back on track with the SAT. That's something that you definitely need to start working on. I think if anybody's interested in a program like Cornell, I think it's something that you would like to start off as soon as possible once you enter high school, like the preparation. And generally anything above 1400 out of the 1600 SAT, it's considered a strong score.
Okay, and whilst we're on those kind of numbers, what about the GPA then? Where would you say generally students need to be as they're coming through those final 2 years of high school?
We're averaging about 3.9. We've had anywhere between 3.7 and above. We've had the students coming in, depending also, because there's a combination between the SAT and the GPA. So in a case where a student is able to score very high on the SAT score, then you have maybe a little more leeway on the GPA side.
Yeah. And again, for those in the UK, a 4.0 is straight A's all the way through. Maybe something like a 3.9 or 3.8 can maybe allow for 1 or 2 B grades in there. So that really helps, and it's a strong combination of both. Okay. In terms of just explaining to our listeners then what you can do as a coach for those that you want to recruit, what is, a supported admission or an assisted admission, and how does that work?
Yeah, so each institution within the Ivy League has a certain amount of numbers allocated in the admission. So we typically get between 2 to 3 players that we're allowed to support during admission. To be honest with you, given the competitive environment in the admission process, I'm a strong believer that none of our players would have been able to get into Cornell had it not been the supported spots that we've allocated them. And so, and not because they're not good enough students. They actually ended up doing quite well once they're here. The team's GPA was actually 3.77 this past academic year, and that's one thing that I'm very, very proud of. But with that being said, it's, every single year there's about 70,000 to 73,000 applicants for about 5,000 spots in admission. And so giving that like competitive environment, it's incredibly hard to get into this institution. And that's where this supported spots means so much to us. It's probably the best thing that we can provide as a tennis program to players. Is to provide a way into the institution. And so, like I said, we're allocated 2 to 3 spots every single year, and that's why we need to be very, very mindful in selective as far as how do we allocate those spots.
Very good. And in terms of starting to assess players for those spots, they'll obviously be assessed a little bit earlier than the regular admissions deadline. So how does that work in terms of, their academic assessment, maybe their financial review? Does that all happen earlier, or does it happen, with your regular admissions students?
Everything happens a lot on a much earlier timeline. So, in the earlier conversations that we're having with the players, we try to determine, like I said, the appreciation for academics, and we're trying to learn. We have to. It's inevitable for us to find out like what are their scores, or how are they doing academically, and we have to make sure that they have to be at a certain level, academically, for us to continue the conversation, or else it's not worth anyone's time to continue the conversation. So we want to make sure that they're very strong academically. And so once we do that, earlier in the process, it's the coaching staff that determines, we don't want to waste the players' times. It's very important for us that we're very honest, very transparent with them. And if we've noticed, players that have many, too many B's in their transcripts, or they have C's in their transcripts, then we tell them right away. We're pretty sure it's not going to work as far as the support, even with the support that we provide. It's not going to be able to help them. So that happens in the earlier phases, where we try to estimate as far as their chances, and then they are also reviewed by the school prior to the regular students being reviewed. They're going to be reviewed a year in advance. As far as like July 1st is the first opportunity of their after their junior year. July 1st is the first opportunity when the school reviews a candidate and then tell us about the chances of getting them admitted.
Okay. And as far as I'm sure all of the other sports at Cornell, then they're all working with a certain number of supported admissions also across those teams.
100%. Yeah. Every sport is allocated a certain amount of spots each year.
Excellent. Okay, and back to the tennis then. What type of roster size are you working with this year, and what do you typically work with? And then how does competition work, and how many are scoring for the team in competitions?
So currently we have 12 players on the roster. Starting next year, we're going to be at 11. That's the limit that the school has determined for us. Yeah. As far as like, how do we rank the players, or how do we like?
So whenever they go to compete, how are they ranked in their lineup and their matchup against other teams then?
Sure. Well, it's a long process of a lot of tournaments. So for example, this fall semester we're playing 9 events as a team. Not every single player gets to compete in all 9 of the events, but different guys might play different events. And there's a long timeline of body of work that we're looking at with each of them. We're trying to pay attention how consistent they've been in training, how consistent they've been in competition, who's making the biggest gains, throughout the entire semester, or maybe in the summer, like how well they're coming prepared into the fall semester. Winter break is also an opportunity to grow. So, with tennis, it's a full year round. It's hardly ever a time for long breaks. Maybe the players will have a week of break in the Christmas during the Christmas break. But other than that, it's an opportunity for them to train and compete all year around. And so we try to determine based on, like I said, 4 to 5 months of a body of work. We're trying to determine who are the players that have consistently improved and have consistently proven themselves at the highest level of competition. And that's how we determine the lineup.
Very good. Okay, for those that are fortunate enough that might be recruited at a university like Cornell, can you tell us more about the facilities that you have there, and maybe a little about your pro tournament as well, if you're running that? Obviously, the facilities are of a world-class level.
Sure. We're very fortunate. We have 6 indoor courts and we have 6 outdoor courts right next to each other. We're actually working as we speak right now at adding cameras. So we're going to have each of those courts, both indoors and outdoors, they're going to have live streaming. We're very excited about that and the opportunity that it provides, future recruits to be able to watch some of our matches, as well as the parents from the current players and the alumni. And we have, like I said, 6 indoor, 6 outdoor facility, beautiful facility. We just resurfaced the indoor courts. We're going to get our outdoor courts redone the next year, and we're going to have basically a brand new facility that we're very, very excited about. And right next to the facility, we have the fitness center. So it's the strength and conditioning center, where we have indoor track and field, outdoor track and field, where the players do a lot of the workouts. And then we have also an indoor turf, where they do a lot of the agility work. It's right next to the strength and conditioning center. So very fortunate from a facility standpoint. We have everything we can wish for and desire. And we're very, very privileged from that standpoint.
Very good. And aside from yourself, then, what about the personnel that are supporting the team? Do you have, a strength and conditioning specialist, a psychologist? What type of experts are the team working with?
Sure. Well, firstly, we have 2 incredible assistant coaches. Besides myself, so we're three coaches. Each of us, so we have 12 players in this group. Each of us has its own group of 4 players. So I'm overseeing 4 direct players that I'm working with individually, and each of the coaches do the same thing. We have assistant coach Spencer Furman, who was an All-American, so was a top 20 player in US for Duke University. He was UTR-wise, he was higher. He was 14 UTR, so played at a very, very high level himself. And he's been a tremendous addition for us as far as the knowledge, the work ethic, and just the investment in the program. We have Marco Martizzi, who's a coach that coached at more than 20 Grand Slams. He coached 7 players in top 300 ATP, and culminating with Alina Zhitkova, who was a 50 WTA player that beat Serena Williams back in the day. Marco is from Italy, and we've added him in our staff this past year. So we're super fortunate with 2 very, very knowledgeable coaches besides me in the program. In addition to them, we have an incredible sports psychologist in Danny Lorenas. He played Davis Cup for Guam. He played tennis himself at the University of Hawaii. and he's a sports psychologist that talks weekly with each of our players. I give him a lot of credit for all the time that he invests in the program. We have a massage therapist that works with each of the players at least once a week, and with many of them twice a week. We have a strength and conditioning coach that works with the team 5 times a week, every morning, like I said, from 7:30 to 8:30. That we try to communicate on a weekly basis as far as the workload that the players have and the type of tournaments that they're playing. So we're trying to collaborate to be as efficient as we can as a unit. We have a nutritionist that comes in and provides a presentation at the beginning of each year, and then individually the players have access to her and to her expertise. Besides we have 3 stringers that are working with the team. We have physio that's directly in charge of our team. And in severe cases, we also have access to 2 doctors. Thankfully, that hasn't been the case for a long time, and hopefully we'll keep it that way. But yes, we do have a very strong staff, and there's a lot of people behind these players that are trying to provide, the best environment for them, the most professional environment for them.
Yeah, certainly sounds world class. Really excellent. In terms of the team that you have this year and collectively, as well as for the individuals, what are the goals for this year? What do you think you can achieve?
So, look, in general, one of the things we've been aiming for is to create the most professional environment we can for the players. We want to be an institution where players have a chance to pursue excellence in both tennis and in academics. And from a tennis standpoint, it's been my mission to create the most professional environment, an environment where players can pursue tennis at the absolute highest level. So that's something that we're trying to do on a consistent basis, and we've been doing this for the last 13 years. As a team, our ultimate goal is to win the national championships, and so that's what we're trying to create the strongest possible group of players, and that have that passion, that determination, and that ambition to accomplish very audacious goals, and be willing to invest the time and the effort for it. So that's what we're aiming for.
Excellent. Okay. And in terms of the other sports on campus, we have some people listening tonight who may be from other sports, but what other sports really thrive on campus? And also how's the fan base? How are the spectators across the different sports as well?
Sure. We have 37 sports. So we are the program. I believe it's the 3rd largest athletic department in the country, if I'm not mistaken. It's definitely within the top 10 for sure in that regard. The sports that are thriving, I would say hockey has been a very, very successful sport. Last time I checked, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, there were 13 players in the NHL with professional contracts that have represented Cornell throughout the years. But hockey has been a very strong sport at Cornell, both men and women. Wrestling, we've been number 2 in the country this past year, so they've done a tremendous job there. Soccer, men's soccer. So John Smith, who's actually British, he's done a tremendous work for us, and he's been incredibly successful with the program. And he's able to help several players to transition to a professional, like in MLS in the US. Lacrosse is another sport that we're very successful, but it's not so popular in Europe, but a lot more popular in US. And I will say those are the top. I would say the top 10 programs in each of their sports nationally.
Very good. And do the regular students, is there a big culture for coming out to watch and support? And is there a culture of really getting behind the teams on campus?
Sure. Like again, for the sports that I think that have been successful, you certainly see there's a different atmosphere, there's a different vibe when you go to each of those matches or the games. Yeah. And I think you have players from the other sports going to support the teams, but you have just the regular students. and the community, the Ithaca community that's going behind them. So certainly I think the atmosphere is quite special with all the sports that I've just mentioned, for sure.
Excellent. It sounds like a really exciting campus to be on. So we're coming to the point where we're going to take some questions soon from the audience. Before we do that, I just wanted to ask, for those that may be listening, maybe age 14 or 15, what steps can they begin to take to put themselves in a position where the Ivy League becomes possible? And what tips would you have for them at this point in their lives?
Well, I think it's important for them to set up a very audacious goal. In my opinion, that's what I would advise them. But consequently, it's important to determine a plan and break that plan down in the smallest possible pieces, and consequently be incredibly disciplined as far as us following that plan. It comes down to how consistent you are in doing the daily work. It's not about, the way I look at it, it's not about doing incredible things. I think people underestimate what they can do in a 12-month span or 24-month span, and they certainly overestimate what they can do in a month or a week. So I'm a firm believer of the benefits of the compound effect of doing the small things on a long spectrum, and then it comes down to understanding the level that you are from a UTR standpoint. Where are you starting compared to where the players on our roster, if that's the team you're looking for, or whatever other teams you're looking for, and just have an idea of like how far you are from there and how you can bridge that gap, with the work that you're going to invest, and also with the type of tournaments that you're going to play. But you want to have, for players that we're looking for, you want to have access to like strong competition, whether it's national or international. It's not important for us just the world rankings or the national rankings, but it's important for us to see that you have access to strong competition, national or international. So those are things that I think are gonna be incredibly important, and obviously the academics. You want to make sure that you are a very good student, so you do take care of your work on a consistent basis.
Yeah, thank you. You've been very honest about the specific requirements for both Cornell and the wider, those highly selective academic universities. At this point, I'm just going to have a quick review of the questions that have been coming in. We'll
Sure.
see if there's been anything different. So just a second. Yeah, the first one actually is really good. So Jamie asks, how many players at Cornell might be aiming to become professional, and is it common that a player will move on and become professional?
Yeah, so right now in the current roster that we have, four of the players are aiming to play tennis after graduation. It is, generally we've been having 1 to 2 players maybe each year that have that goal. This year's team has more players, and I believe in the next 2 classes, we will have an even larger group of guys that are looking and aiming to play professional tennis.
Excellent. Someone has asked here just about the visa process. Now, I know you won't go into details on that, but potentially, the I-20 is important to trigger the visa. So maybe you have some comment on that process.
No, that's actually a fairly straightforward process. Once you're admitted into the institution, you will be receiving an I-20 form from the institution that you applied for, and that automatically triggers the visa process. So you shouldn't have any type of concerns or issues once you receive an I-20 from an institution. We've never had an issue with that in my 13 years time with Cornell.
Excellent. And yeah, obviously we support students through that all the time, and just being in good time and having that I-20 is the crucial thing. Someone has just asked here how much of this information applies to all sports at Cornell, but presumably the supported admission is something across all of the NCAA sports. The GPA and the SAT requirements are going to be very similar across the different sports.
I believe so. I believe that's the case. Maybe the what would be different would be the daily schedule. I'm not too privy of every other sport and how much they
Yeah.
spend in training and so on and so forth. But as far as the admission requirements, I think that would be across the board.
Okay, another good question here. Someone just asked, how tough is the first 3 months, settling in for a new player on campus? And is there anything you do to support those freshman players?
I believe the first semester, it's without a doubt the most challenging one out of all eight of them. The transition coming to a different country, different environment, it always takes a toll on someone, and we do want to be providing a close guidance to the freshmen, and we are spending a lot more time with them as far as preparing from an academic standpoint. So a week before school starts, we sit down with them and we try to map out the entire semester. We try to look at when they're going to have finals exam. We start with the back in mind, when they're going to have finals exam, when they're going to have midterms, when they're going to have projects and other quizzes. And we want to make sure that we outline those in the calendar with consequent reminders. Let's say if you have a final exam, like a 3 week prior to that, you want to have a reminder to start preparing for that particular exam. We want to, put in all the tournaments that they're going to participate in throughout the entire fall semester. So in that way, they have a clear idea of what it's going to look from an effort standpoint and where they need to be paying attention. And so we try to communicate with them on a weekly basis. We try to meet with them on a weekly basis to get their feedback as far as how are they doing academically, how are they doing, physically, emotionally as well. It's like I said, it's an environment that takes a huge toll as far as the effort. But at the same time, they're human beings, and we want to make sure that we're there for them. I consider our staff not just tennis coaches. I think we're the closest thing to family to them, and we take that responsibility at heart, and we want to be there for them and to be able to support them in the best way we can. Not just to be demanding from a tennis standpoint, but also to be supportive from an emotional standpoint as well.
Yeah. This is another quite, straightforward question, but someone just asked, will both the GCSEs and International Baccalaureate be recognised? But presumably you work with many different curriculums from all over the world, and your admissions department are very ready to review those curriculums.
Yes, those will be recognized, GCSEs or A levels, like for UK, but like you said, we're dealing with players from all over the world. So at the moment we have players from Romania, we have players from India in the team, we have a player from Portugal in the team. So we've had players from Finland. We have players from Serbia. So it's the type of academic curriculums we're dealing with. It's quite special as far as coming from all over the world. So IGCSEs and the I levels are the ones that we're definitely going to look for from someone coming from UK.
Perfect. And final question, I think, for tonight, just what role do visits play? Does a recruited player expect that they might make a visit? Might you organize a visit before finalizing decisions? Is there a role for visits in all of this?
Sure. So once we advance the recruiting process, so once we have a chance to communicate with the players, their coaches, their parents, and we develop an idea as far as, like I said, the type of fit that we potentially see in the future, we always recommend players to take a visit. I think it provides a very authentic way, even though for a brief amount of time, but it provides an authentic way to understand what the program is about. When they visit, they go to the fitness session, they go to the tennis training, they do go to class as well, they do spend time with the players, at the lunchtime or dinner. So they have a chance to communicate and get a feel for what the experience would be like if they were to be here. And I think that's important. I do believe that's important. And we can talk about tennis being very intense, so we're going to work with with certain specificity and certain elements, but I think it's important for players to come in and visit and see it with their own eyes and understand the type of emphasis that's given to every single element in the program, and consequently to determine if that's something they want to pursue or not. And I strongly and wholeheartedly believe in a fit. We're never looking to convince players to come here without a prior understanding of how strong the fit is going to be. Because once we feel like there's a strong fit, I feel like we believe that the players are going to thrive immensely, and we've seen it throughout the years. It's a profound transformation, from every single standpoint. And I mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to emphasize this. I think being in an Ivy League institution, you're surrounded by some of the brightest minds of your generation, some of the brightest faculty, and some of the strongest, most powerful alumni network as far as the job market and the opportunities down the road. So I think that's what makes the Ivy League very, very unique and very special compared to most other institutions. And I think there's a lot of effort that is invested in the process, both with tennis, both with academics. But in the very end, it's absolutely and no question in my mind worth it. And so I've seen an absolute transformation from the first step they set on campus until their graduation. And I think every single of our players is, once they graduate, if they're pursuing professional tennis, fantastic. And if they're not, I think, and without sounding arrogant, I hope, I feel very strongly that they're gonna be ready for whatever company, and they will have access to the best companies in the world, and not only that they'll have access, but I believe they're going to be prepared to thrive on those companies.
Thank you very much, Coach Silviu. It's been great to have you tonight. I think those are great words to finish on. And we really appreciate your time tonight. We encourage everyone as well as watching, keep following, and we hope you're going to secure that NCAA title very soon.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity, and best of luck to everyone pursuing this dream.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.